Cars come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and everybody has a dream car. For me, it's the R34 Nissan Skyline GT-R, and recently I had the opportunity to drive it, so let me tell you how it is.
The R34 Nissan Skyline GT-R is a legendary car, and it all starts with that RB26 engine. It's a twin-turbo inline-6. But originally, this car wasn't going to have an inline-6 engine. It was originally intended to have a V6, but because of cost issues, it ended up with the same RB26 engine as the R32 and the R33. And we all know how successful the R32 was, so much so that Australian media actually nicknamed it Godzilla. Fast forward a few years later, and when the R34 came out, Australian media labelled this car Godzilla Returns. The RB26 engine produces officially 276 brake horsepower, and that's thanks to an agreement between Japanese car makers to limit the amount of horsepower that their cars make to avoid a horsepower race. But R34 Nissan Skylines have been tested on the dyno to producing over 330 brake horsepower. So not all the manufacturers actually stuck to that gentleman's agreement. Nowadays, a lot of the R34 Nissan Skyline GT-Rs that you'll see on the road have been modified in some way or another. As the saying goes, they live fast and die young. It's really difficult to find an untinkered example, one that's purely stock, and that's exactly what I have right here. This particular car is a press car from the Nissan Heritage press fleet, and it's not been modified in any way whatsoever. It is fully stock. Those modified examples can reach up to 1000 horsepower, but even in stock form, this car is unbelievably good. Now, the value of the R34 Nissan Skyline GT-R has been going higher and higher in the recent years. And that's because of the American regulations that don't allow you to import cars under 25 years that don't meet the safety regulations in America. But the R34 Skyline GT-R is now turning 25 years old. The earliest examples from 1999 are already 25 years old and have been imported into America. And in recent years, Americans have been buying these cars and leaving them in warehouses in Japan so that they can import them when that ban is lifted. And now, as the years go by, from 2024 to 2027, you'll see more and more of these cars being imported into America. So because of that, the value of the R34 has gone higher and higher.
The fact that there were only 80 R34 GT-Rs officially brought to the UK means that there aren't many available on the road. And those that haven't been crash damaged have probably been modified. So it's really difficult to find a good example. Even those that are on the market, you can expect to pay over £130,000 for them. And if you're looking for even rarer versions of the car like the V-Spec NER, then you can spend even more than that.
The R34 is a legendary car, a bedroom wall poster car. But for some, it's a little bit more than that. So every day when I sit at my desk and I'm about to do a piece of work, whether that's edit a video or write an article, I look over at the corner of my desk and I see this model car, this R34 Skyline GT-R from the Fast and Furious movie. Now, the story behind this car is earlier this year I went on a road trip in LA, and whilst I was there I had to visit the Fast and Furious house. And just down the road is the Toretto Market, which is actually called Bob's Market in real life. And I went and I bought a model car, a model R34 GT-R from that market. Now, I must admit, it is a bit of a tourist trap and the car was rather expensive for what it is. But the reason why I bought it is because this car means something to me. And that is because the car world is quite strange. Everybody can trace their roots back to a time when they got inspired by some sort of cars, whether it's a family member who used to bring cars home every day, or whether they used to watch Top Gear.
For me, it was when I watched the movie Too Fast, Too Furious.
And in that movie, the first thing I ever remember to do with cars was seeing a silver R34 Skyline GT-R with the blue stripes driving through a crowd of people with the neon lights underneath and the nitrous oxide purging out of the front wheel arches, and out steps Brian O'Connor, played by Paul Walker, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And that's basically what inspired me to get into cars, to follow cars. This car is the reason why I'm interested in cars. So let me show you around some of the exterior parts of the R34 Skyline GT-R. Now, to start with, what you'll notice, which is different between the R33 and the R34, is the wheelbase. Now, that's due to customer feedback. Nissan decided to make the wheelbase shorter, and there's a slightly shorter overhang at the front here, which I think just makes the proportions of the car overall just look so cool, especially when you get out of the car and you look back towards that rear wing, this massive rear wing. I think it just looks amazing. At the front, you have a splitter. Now, that's been fitted to the UK versions of the V-Spec cars. So 80 of these cars were officially imported into the UK, and they got a front splitter, they got a rear carbon fiber diffuser, and they got leather seats inside. Of course, alongside that, they also got stiffer suspension. And even still, the car feels really comfortable, but really capable when you drive it a little bit faster. I'll show you around the inside. So let me very briefly show you around the inside of one of my dream cars. Just sitting in this driver's seat makes me feel so cool, especially seeing the GT-R logo on the steering wheel in front of me, sat on these Connolly leather seats. Now, this leather is quite comfortable, even though it doesn't look that comfortable, but it's got this sort of cushioning inside it, so that's really quite good. 6-speed manual gearbox, old school handbrake. You get this center screen which gives you all sorts of information, and the UK versions of these cars also got lap timers in there. You can see how much G-force you're experiencing, all sorts of features through that screen, and you can change some of the features, some of the settings of the car, but it will be changed in Japanese, and I don't really understand that, nor do I want to mess with that too much, because this car feels so good already. Let me tell you a few quirky things about this car which are really interesting. So the windscreen wipers are operated from this side, this stalk on your left, and the indicators are operated from the right, which is quite difficult to get used to the first time you get into the car, because you start indicating with your windscreen wipers. That's not good. But also, if you put your windows down from the driver's side, you've got a switch for the driver's window and a switch for the passenger's window. You simply put them down to put down and pull it up to bring the windows back up. But on the passenger side, it's backwards. You have to push the button up, you have to pull the button up to bring the window down, and you have to push the button down to bring the window up. So that's quite interesting, quite quirky, but I think overall you can't deny that this car has tons of character. This car was ahead of its time. It has the ATTESA 4-wheel drive system, and it has 4-wheel steering as well. It comes with a 5-inch display inside the car, and it's just sublime. It weighs 1.5 tons, but that 330 horsepower roughly, it just propels the car, and it just has so much torque. The torque, it has a big power band. So I was at 40 miles an hour, for example, and I put my foot down in 4th gear and it accelerated quite quickly. And even though it's not fast to today's standards, 0 to 60 miles per hour comes in around 5 seconds, it still feels so good. And it sounds incredible too. It sounds amazing. There's always that sort of, that idle tone that you get, that sort of deep raw when you just start the car is incredible. And then when you're on the road, it certainly catches people's attention. I have at least one person a day who stops to tell me how good this car is. And beyond that, so many people who stop and wave and point and laugh and thumbs up and stuff. So it's a car that catches attention, and that's obviously thanks to the Fast and Furious movies, and also thanks to Need for Speed and Gran Turismo. This car has become an icon. I mean, I'm quite fortunate to be able to drive it. I'm really glad. I never thought I'd ever be able to drive a car like this, but here I am, and I'm loving every second of it. These seats, Even with the Conley leather, they might look like they're uncomfortable, but they are actually quite comfortable. The only issue that you would have with these seats is when you get into the car on a cold morning, they feel a bit cold, but other than that, they are actually really comfortable. Good support, good padding. The steering wheel is beautiful. It's not too thick, it's quite thin actually, but it's really nice to hold, and it just feels incredible when you're on the corners like this. It just turns exactly how you want it to do. And the car is agile as well. You've got to remember, this car has a shorter wheelbase than the R33. And that's because of customer concerns, or customer feedback rather. And it has a shorter front overhang, as I've already mentioned. So it just feels that quite dynamic. It just feels like it turns in quite easy. And when you make a turn and you put it straight line, it just sticks to that line so well. It actually complements your driving really well, especially driving around the city. I feel like I'm in the Fast and Furious movies. As I turn around the corner, I feel really cool. Visibility is great. I haven't sat in a car from the early 2000s in a long time, and it's just reminded me how good the visibility is, especially over the shoulder. When you look at over the C-pillars, you've got so much more visibility than you do in modern cars. I don't know where these modern cars have been going wrong, to be honest. And every now and then, you just glimpse in the mirrors and you can see that rear wing, and it just looks so cool. Oh, this is such a dream. This is such a dream. I can't believe that I'm driving a car like this. Oh, the adrenaline rush is still going through me. Oh, this is the best car I've driven. And I know it's a 22-year-old car, and it's a bold statement considering there are so many modern cars that are really good to drive. But to me, the way you get that connection with the car through the steering wheel, through the pedals, through the seat, how you feel the road, there's nothing else like it. And there's a reason why these cars are desired so much. You know when they say, never meet your heroes? Forget about it. Go and meet your heroes. Because if your heroes are anything like this, oh, yeah, this is such a good car. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making this video, as much as I enjoyed driving this car, and I'm going to continue to drive it now as much as I can and make the most of it, because I don't know if I will ever get to drive a car like this again. I hope I will. But thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you and take care.